Well, Mark Olson, welcome to the Stephen Skinner podcast.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
You know, the last time we were in the studio, I think we were in reverse roles, and I was on the Mark Olson podcast. So I was thinking about that today when we had to land here at Anthony's studio. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I was sitting on the other side of a
People
table
for
there.
Olson podcast. So it's kind of nice to be on the other side, I got to tell you.
Absolutely here. So again, now, what I didn't realize is that you are not only, are you still operating as the village mayor of Fayetteville, and you are our legislator for that area as well, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So now, village mayor for Fayetteville, many years, right? How many
since
years?
2004.
2004. So I heard like longest sitting mayor in village of Fayetteville, which looks beautiful as always. I'm at the Fayetteville Y every morning, which I might be right on the outskirts.
Right
of
on the outskirts.
Right on the outskirts. But I'm there every morning checking on things.
Yeah.
But you're a first-time legislator for our area, right?
Yeah, it's been a learning. Every day I learn something. Just came from a public safety meeting where I'm the chairman, and every day I learn something new, and it's exciting. But it's also when you don't know and you kind of struggle and say, how do you do this and how do you do that? Where at the village, you know, you've pretty much been through something or done it or know somebody that you can call and get something done. So being the mayor is a little bit easier from a knowledge standpoint because you've done it for so long. Being a legislator, it impacts a lot more people, and it's a lot more in-depth when it comes to policy and procedure and the way the legislature works. That's what I'm still trying to get through and learn.
Yeah, because what is the difference in population? So is the village like 10,000 people versus the district is what, 20, 30,000?
It's 28,000, so the legislature district, and then the village is about 4,500 people.
4,500 people. So more people, probably new faces, a lot of new areas. So what has been over this past, you're in the middle of this run, which we'll talk about that in a second. What has been some of either the biggest challenges, even from a county standpoint? Because I'm sure it's not just your own district. I'm sure some of the decisions that you're making impacts the entire county.
Yeah, you're asked to vote on things that impact the whole county. And I think that the challenging thing is getting that message out. I think about it, we're all human beings.
Yeah.
And I think they look at politicians and they look at us like, oh my God, you're Mark Olson, the politician. Well, when I'm the mayor, I'm just Mark Olson, just doing a job and just trying to get things done and make people's lives better. And that's what I'm trying to get across to the people in the legislature is just, my constituents. Listen, I'm going to make some mistakes. You know what I mean? I'm new at this. I'm not perfect. But I'm trying to do the right thing, and I'm trying to make sure that the policies that I either approve or deny are good for my district, and also good looking at the whole picture. Because I talk to my trustees about it all the time. Don't just vote. Look at the whole picture. Don't look at just this one little item. What effect does it have for the whole village? So that's been a learning curve because at the legislature, it's much more. These subjects are much more complex.
The budgets are probably a little bit bigger too.
Oh my God!
Versus a village budget. I'm sure a village budget is still nothing to sneeze at too.
Yeah,
but
it's
about
$7 million. Yeah, $7 million, 50 employees versus
what's the county budget?
A 1.4 something billion and 3,000 plus employees. Yeah, it's a totally when you look at. When we go through Ways and Means and we look at numbers, and I sit there and go, "Oh my God, the numbers are just." But it's still in the same. That's the nice thing. Not
population.
Knowing, yeah, it's still in the same format. Like last general meeting, we were talking about CHIPS funding, which is the same funding we get for highway improvement money in the village. We were talking about WEP and all the wastewater treatment things. Same thing that we go through at the village. Community development, block grants. We get block grants for our senior center. So it's nice being able to know all those facets of county government that affect the village, vice versa. Someone that has no idea what's going on, how do they do that? How do they come in and say, oh yeah, that's a great project, when they know absolutely nothing about that? So it's been nice in that aspect that I know a lot of the things that the county's working on, but the sheer numbers and the volume and the policies and procedures. At the village, the mayor or the board says yes, and you move forward. Here, it's got to start with committees, and then finance, and then the administration, and then it's got to go through legal, and then it gets back to the committee level, and then so there's so many different layers, but it works. It is a system that works. It's just learning that system that's been, to me, a little bit longer and a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. So what are some of the things? I can think of a couple things, such as I-81, which, interesting enough, where your position for your district it's probably going to get a pretty big impact of traffic increase. Is that a conversation that comes up between your constituents, between the ledge, and also, I mean, not to mention the village of Fayetteville is not too far from 481. So, I mean, is that one of those things that's a hot topic right now that people talk about, or is it something else that is big?
It's more at the village level and the town level. Actually, and the president of the Mayor's Association still, which. What do they say? If you want to get something done, give it to somebody who's busy. Well,
Yes.
that's my,
Oh my
lot in
goodness.
life right now. Is the more I get busier, the more they give me. But we are having actually Betsy Parmley from the DOT meet with the village mayors and the town supervisors together, because we're trying to say, where is there mitigation money in case, because we've been told they're going to redo 95 and Route 5 intersection, but it's only really affecting the village of Manlius that the improvements are being made. Fayetteville's fine. And I'm like, wait a minute, what if you get it wrong? What if I just want you to be aware that this could not go as planned, and can you make sure there's some mitigation money or something set aside so that you guys can pivot and make a change? At the county, the administration's handling the day-to-day interaction with the city, with the DOT, the county DOT. It's one of the nice things is I knew Marty Voss, I knew Shannon at WEP, I knew the commissioner of 911, I knew the commissioner of emergency management. All those commissioners I had been working with as a village mayor. So that's another thing that kind of helped me. But this 81 thing, I go back to always like when the thruway, if there's an accident on the thruway and they shut it down and they have to divert them from DeWitt through to Canastota. I have to have fire police and volunteer firemen and our career staff in the road directing traffic and making sure we can get things through. We work with the police, so we know what the impact it has. I want to make sure that, and we're working Manlius, Manoa, East Syracuse, and Fayetteville together, kind of saying, hey, don't forget the East. All that truck traffic is going to be bypassed, and what is the effect? And so far, the DOT, I'm looking forward with Betsy because I think Betsy's a great communicator, and Betsy will listen because she lives in Manlius.
It's awesome.
So we're very fortunate. The administration before couldn't get a meeting, couldn't get any communication, couldn't get anything going. And the mayor of the city of Syracuse has been trying to help us because he's part of our association.
Yes.
And I understand what he's trying to do, and he's doing exactly what I would be trying to do, which is what's best for our village and what's best for our city. I just want that communication level to be the same as it is with the city, with the villages and towns in my district.
It's so important, communication, and on top of that, I mean, you're dealing with, again, all these different mayors and represented officials that their goal is to try to bring ideas together, knowing that what affects someone for the good may affect someone for the negative. So, in other words, it is trying to find a happy medium, and it is going to be an interesting time. Does, at any of your meetings, either town hall meetings or discussions with constituents, does Micron, being that it's north of you guys, does Micron come up good or bad? Because again, I mean, everyone overall, I think the consensus is that it's a wonderful economic engine, great possibilities. But I think there is a little bit of fear out there when it comes to a lot of speculation and housing and jobs in general. What comes up on Micron when you talk about it?
I think your assessment is right on. I think that I like the county's approach. I like especially the county executive's approach, which is bottom down, bottom up approach, which is what does each village, town, municipality need help with? If that's comprehensive planning, is it long range planning? Is it infrastructure improvements? Is it town centers, village centers? What is it that your community wants, or does your community not want to be part of it? And that's fine. Every community gets. So our approach has been we want to refine our zoning codes to make sure we have enough housing and to make sure that we're adequately looking at the impacts of what's going to happen. We're also working on infrastructure. We're looking at all of our roads, sidewalks, bridges. So we want to be prepared because we know once this comes, and we're starting to see the effect of it already. Just yesterday, somebody came in, they're paying taxes, and it's weird. People still come in and pay their taxes in person. They like doing that. And it's village tax season, and he's a subcontractor that's working on the project, and he bought a house in the village. And I think there's some skepticism, and some of it's healthy, but some of it is it's our turn. I think we've got to stop this. That Syracuse, it's not going to happen. This is happening. This is going to be a major impact on our community. And that's what I'm excited about being at the county level now as the legislator, because a lot of the things that we're working on, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's wastewater, whether it's aqua, whether it's power, whether it's economic development, whether it's working with the county executive's office to put programs and plans together to make sure this is successful. that's an exciting place to be. But Fayetteville obviously is going to be, Fayetteville, Manlius, Manoa are all going to benefit because we have some land available for housing. We have the infrastructure set up. We have great schools in ESM and FM. We have great quality of services with the police department, fire, and EM. So we're set up in a pretty good situation. It's managing that situation. And the only downside, and I don't, it's not a downside, but is property values going. I get fearful of that going out of control because then seniors, people on fixed incomes, people first-time home buyers, it's hard enough with interest rates what they are, but think about as those property values just rise.
It's concerning.
You lose those people that volunteer on your committees, volunteer in the fire department, give Little League and soccer and all the programs, and those parents, they have to work so hard just to pay their taxes and their house payment. They don't have time to give back, and that's what I get fearful of as these property values rise. And we know we're one of the communities. It's the Fayetteville, Manlius, Skinny Atlas, Cazenovia, where these executives or anybody wants to live, where that quality of life is pretty good. That's my only fear, that we that balance is the one that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, that's going to be, I think, an adjustment that people will have to look at as we go, because that's what I do in my day-to-day work is real estate, and seeing what things are going for. It's both good and exciting. I agree everything with what you're saying. It's exciting. It does for our seniors and for families that are working class. It can be a little bit stressful.
Yeah.
So again, it's good for that. You're talking about communication. It's good that you're having dialogue. Mm-hmm. Housing. So you alluded to it. When it comes to Micron, with all these hiring of jobs, I've been hearing some through Clay doing some housing developments. Have I heard they're looking at doing some Manlius housing developments too, either in the village or they're doing, I think everything's changing when it comes to housing. People are doing more of the condos. I mean, I just know from a standpoint of Water Tree, which is in the East Syracuse area, Water Tree has just skyrocketed from being these little entry-level condos in the past to now. I mean, just people want them badly. And then obviously Erie Village. Is there some plans on housing for the FM area? Yeah,
there is. Manoa's actually got an exciting project that was in the paper that they're working on, and that's about 120 housing units. The town right across from the medical center up on Burdick Street is looking at 300 housing units, apartments and condos and things like that. And then outside of the village of Manlius, the thing with the three villages is they're pretty compact and they're pretty built out. I know you're in the real estate. If you look at Fayetteville right now and you look in the village, I think as of yesterday there was 2 or 3 houses for sale out of 1,700.
There's nothing. Yeah.
Right, and they won't be on by the end of the week.
They'll be gone.
Great problem to have, but not a good problem either. It's one of these, and I say, how do I solve that? So these additional housing units will be great in the town and outside in Manoa and other areas. But then you got to think about, my brain goes to, okay, great, they're building. What about DPW, fire, police, schools, all those services that we have to provide? Utilities, right? Oh my goodness. Drainage, sidewalks, all these things that you need, street lights, all these things that other people don't think about. In my head, I'm like, okay, what do we need to do? And where does the county play a role to help the villages in the town? And where can the villages and the towns work together to create efficiencies and look at the things? Because I think a lot of people don't understand, in the town of Manlius, there's 3 villages. The 3 villages have all the sidewalks, have all the parks, senior centers, so that's their function. And then the town is police, zoning, and assessors. So we don't overlap a lot, but I think people need to understand that sometimes there's limited resources with the villages, that the town might be able to start working with the villages more and help us.
It's crazy. I think about a lot of times, I sometimes bring analogies when it comes to development or even this great growth that we have either through Micron or just even all the other developments. It's almost like raising up children. For a long time, Central New York has been like the same age.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the kids are growing up. And so what happens is new clothes, car, maybe you have to place to live. It's like same thing. We're starting to grow up. And so now as a mayor and as a legislator, you're having to think about all these changes. And that's, I think it's very, the people should be fortunate in your area that they have a village mayor also as their legislator, because what you can bring to the table, you're not one-sided. Mm-hmm. You've been doing one for a while. The other one you just got elected for. But in turn, you bring all this experience to the table, and it's something that's very unique on that. what is there, if you were going to ask the viewers of this podcast, what are some of right now your couple challenges that you're working on, and what are maybe some of your greatest successes that you have done over the past year and a half as legislator?
I think the hardest thing has been that not knowing what the next step is, or not being able to. As mayor, the project starts with you sometimes, and then you're in charge, and it's really one person. At the ledge, you say yes to this project, and then your hands are off, and you put it in front of the administration and his team or her team to accomplish. And then at the end, so when people ask you questions, you might not know. That's been frustrating because as mayor, like I tell my department heads, no surprises, like good or bad. I want to know what's going on. Whether it's, we were paving yesterday and we couldn't sweep the road right away. So I'm out there proactively meeting with the residents saying, okay, the sweeper's not coming today, but it'll be here tomorrow. Please tell your neighbors, please tell your friends, so that I've been through it, done there, so it's going to happen. You're going to get the phone calls and the emails. What's going on here? At the county level, you're a little bit removed from that because you have the legislative branch, which is a co-equal branch with the
other one, you're in the
executive.
Executive branch. So
Right.
You're in two different branches.
So you're used to being an executive and thinking like an executive, and now you've got to think like a legislator. And it's just making sure to get through that, thought process has been the hardest thing. Some of the successes are with the public safety, being the chairman of public safety. Today we talked about EMS calls and, working on those important things that when you pick up the phone and call 911, everybody, and I think doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Democrat or independent or whatever, wants the best trained, best staff, best equipped ambulance there as fast as possible to take care of whatever happens. And it's breaking through those political barriers to get my fellow legislators to realize what goes into that system, what goes into, there's a lot of state regulations, there's county regulations, there's all these, rules and regulations but it's, how do we make sure that we're educating the legislators so they understand the radio communications, they understand ambulances, they understand staffing levels, they understand contracted services. In the city right now, they've got a contract out with and they put it out to bid, and we're waiting to hear the results of that. But it has an effect on Fayetteville, Manlius, Eves, Waves, NAVAC, KVAC, all these other ambulance services. So, learning that, teaching the legislators that's been, something that I've been proud of. And then having open communication. I've met with each one of my village boards, each one of my town boards, going to their meetings and discussing what's going on. I've always said I want to make a connection and want the residents. The county has so many great resources and so many great programs, but people don't know about it. And my job is, as a legislator, is to go out there and connect and make those connections, whether it's working with the veterans or the seniors on our Shape Up program or our Veterans Shape Up program or our Seniors Connection. All those things, to me, has been exciting. The broadband initiative that worked with Legislator Knapp, so that when we're done in 18 months or a year, 2 years from now, every house in Onondaga County will have access to broadband.
That's awesome.
To me, is huge.
That's awesome.
And then, a surprise has been how much that the county and the city work together. I really knew that was happening, but to the level of how it happens has been something that I think has been interesting, and educating the public about how much when it comes to lead. People say, well, what are you doing about lead? Combined right now we have $19.1 million spent and ready to go.
That's awesome.
And we need to do more, but we've got to have the resources and then going to OCC and looking at educating and getting people trained and getting them ready to do that program, and working with Legislator Garland on that. To me, all those things are exciting because you're working towards a goal of eliminating lead in people's houses, and to see some of the finished products is exciting. But every day, I'm enjoying it. It's been a fun balance. It's a little bit harder than I thought, but I've enjoyed it.
I mean, I think it's awesome. And when I hear you talk, you're not talking really as a politician. You're talking to everyone as a friend, as a neighbor, as a father.
Yeah.
It's very encouraging, and I love what you said too. When it comes to emergency response, no one asks what political party they're affiliated with when they're either having a health issue or a crisis in their life.
Yeah.
They need the best help, and I really look at your leadership and your communication as one who you care for the people, and you care for them regardless of whatever political affiliation they have. If there's just something you want to end with when it comes to the Stephen Skater podcast here, such as you want to tell the constituents in your area, again, you're in this election season here, just about anything, what would you want to say to your constituent base right now?
I think the biggest thing is, and thank you for your comments about that. To me, it's I've been very fortunate. That's the way villages run. It's about Mark Olson, it's about what do you want? I use an acronym called WITI. What is important to you? Not what is important to me. It's what's important to you. And by doing that and asking those questions, I'm finding out from residents, what do they want to see and what's important to them. So to me, the biggest thing that I'd like people to know is that it's Mark Olson. It's Mark Olson that's willing to do this and wants to do this and wants to get out there and help people connect those dots, make their lives better. Sometimes no is the answer, is the best answer. And I've always done that. If no is the answer, no is the answer. But if there's a way to solve a problem and there's a way to help somebody and a way to make a connection, and that's what is important to me. That's what gets me up every morning, to be able to get out there and help people. And Ann Rooney has been one of my people that for social services and seniors, I call once a week and say, I've got this resident, can you help? Or where can I go? Or what can I do? And it's so nice being able to have that, working with Marty at the DOT or working with WEP on some odor issues in Meadowbrook. It's just, things take longer than I would like, but I'm learning that that's the process and that's the way we have to work. But staying on top of it and getting back to the resident and learning the do's and the don'ts at the county level, to me, is exciting. As we progress farther, I'd love to be able to do more and get more involved, and I'm looking forward to that through the selection process.
Well, again, thank you for coming on the Stephen Skinner podcast today, where we're reverse roles from last time.
Yeah.
And again, also thank you just for being a public servant. It's evident. It's not about a pay or a status. You really love the people of your area.
Yep.
And obviously, I not only wish you great success for your run, but also for some exciting times here. Between Micron coming up and all these new developments and things happening, that you govern your people well and you legislate your district well. So again, thank you so much for coming on today.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No problem.